Right now, as you're watching this video, there are invisible forces in your mind actively sabotaging your happiness, relationships, and success. And here's the kicker. Most people never realize they're trapped by these mental patterns until they've already lost years of their lives to them. I know because I've been there. I've lost sleep, relationships, and countless opportunities because of the thoughts running through my head. And if you're honest with yourself, you probably have too. By the end of this video, you'll identify which of these 7 deadly mindsets is controlling your life, and more importantly, how to break free from them once and for all. Here's something that blew my mind when I first learned it. We live in the most connected, resource-rich time in human history, yet anxiety and depression rates are at an all-time high. We have more opportunities than ever, but somehow we're more miserable than our grandparents who had far less. Why? Because we're fighting a war in our own minds and losing. Studies show that 85% of people struggle with negative self-talk daily. That means if you're watching this, there's an 85% chance you've had thoughts like, I'm not good enough, nothing ever works out for me, or I don't deserve happiness. Sound familiar? Yeah, I thought so. Here's what I've discovered after years of research and, let's be honest, years of therapy. There are 7 core destructive thought patterns. I call them the 7 deadly mindsets that create a cascade of problems in every area of your life. These aren't just bad moods or temporary setbacks. Each mindset literally rewires your brain, changes your behavior, and ultimately shapes your entire reality. It's like having a virus in your mental operating system that corrupts every program you try to run. Ready to see which one is running your life? Let's dive in. Mindset 1. The perfectionist trap. Let me tell you about Sarah. Sarah was a lawyer who worked 80-hour weeks, had a pristine apartment, and from the outside seemed to have it all together. But inside, she was dying. Every email had to be perfect. Every presentation had to be flawless. Every outfit had to be Instagram worthy. And you know what happened? She was chronically late with everything because she couldn't submit anything unless it was 100% perfect. I see you nodding. Been there, right? Here's the thing about perfectionism. It's not about having high standards. It's about having impossible standards. And here's what perfectionism actually creates. First, chronic procrastination. Because if it can't be perfect, why start at all? I used to stare at blank documents for hours because I was terrified of writing the wrong first sentence. Second, imposter syndrome. When you demand perfection, every small mistake feels like evidence that you're a fraud. Sarah would nail 99% of her presentation, but that one stumbled word? That's all she'd think about for weeks. Third, burnout and anxiety. Your brain's threat detection system is constantly activated, scanning for potential imperfections. It's exhausting. And fourth, relationship problems. When you're a perfectionist, you either demand perfection from others, which pushes them away, or you're so afraid of being imperfect that you never really open up. Sarah's breakthrough came when she realized something profound. Done is better than perfect. She started setting good enough standards, and you know what happened? Her productivity skyrocketed, her stress plummeted, and she actually started enjoying her work again. Tell me in the comments, are you a recovering perfectionist like me? What's one thing you've been putting off because it's not perfect yet? Mindset 2, the victim mentality. Now let me tell you about John. John lost his job during the pandemic, and honestly, it wasn't his fault. The economy tanked, his company downsized, and he was caught in the crossfire. But here's where it gets interesting. 2 years later, John was still unemployed. Not because there weren't jobs, but because he'd developed what I call the victim mentality. Every conversation started with, Well, ever since the pandemic, every opportunity was met with, yeah, but the economy. Every suggestion was countered with, you don't understand what I've been through. Look, I'm not minimizing what John went through. Real bad things happen to good people. But here's the harsh truth. Staying stuck in victim mode doesn't undo the damage. It just ensures it continues. The victim mentality creates learned helplessness. When you constantly focus on what's been done to you, you stop seeing what you can do for yourself. John stopped applying for jobs because they'll probably just reject me anyway. It creates chronic blame shifting. Nothing is ever your fault, which means nothing is ever in your control. And if nothing is in your control, why try? It makes you miss opportunities. When you're focused on the rearview mirror, you can't see the road ahead. John turned down 3 networking opportunities because he was too busy explaining why his situation was hopeless. And it creates toxic relationships. People want to help at first, but eventually, they get exhausted by someone who sees problems in every solution. John's transformation happened when he asked himself one simple question. What would I do if I took complete responsibility for my future, regardless of my past? Here's the thing, and this might trigger some people, but taking responsibility isn't about blame, it's about power. When you take responsibility, you take back your power to change things. Have you ever caught yourself in victim mode? What's one area where you've been focusing more on the problem than the solution? Let me know. We've all been there. Mindset 3. The comparison trap. Emma had a morning ritual that was slowly killing her soul. Every day she'd wake up, grab her phone, and scroll through Instagram. And every day she'd feel her self-esteem drop with each swipe. Sarah from high school was on a beach in Bali. Her college roommate just got promoted. Her coworker bought a new car. And Emma was in her pajamas at 10 a.m., wondering where her life went wrong. Raise your hand if you've ever felt personally victimized by social media. Yeah, me too. Here's what Theodore Roosevelt didn't know when he said, "Comparison is the thief of joy." He was talking about comparing yourself to maybe 50 people in your village. We're comparing ourselves to 2 billion people on the internet, and they're all showing their highlight reels. The comparison trap creates chronic inadequacy. You're measuring your behind the scenes against everyone else's highlight reel. Emma didn't see Sarah's credit card debt or her roommate's anxiety attacks or her coworker's failing marriage. It creates decision paralysis. When you're constantly looking at what others are doing, you never develop your own internal compass. Emma changed her career path 3 times because she kept seeing others who had it figured out. It creates imposter syndrome. When you're always measuring yourself against others, you never feel qualified for your own life. Emma turned down a promotion because she didn't think she deserved it compared to her colleagues. And it creates social anxiety. When you're obsessed with how you stack up, every social interaction becomes a competition instead of a connection. Emma's breakthrough came when she realized something. Everyone is too busy worrying about their own lives to judge yours as much as you think they are. She started tracking her own progress instead of comparing it to others. She created what I call personal growth metrics. Things like, am I happier than I was last month? Am I learning something new? Am I becoming more confident? Am I building better relationships? Quick question for you. What's one comparison you need to stop making? And what's one personal growth metric you could track instead? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Mindset 4. The scarcity mindset. Mike made 6 figures. He had a nice house, a good car, and money in the bank. But he lived like he was about to lose everything tomorrow. He hoarded opportunities like they were the last cookies in the jar. He wouldn't refer business to colleagues because what if they become competition? He wouldn't share his knowledge because what if someone surpasses me? He wouldn't spend money on experiences because what if I need it later? Mike had fallen into the scarcity mindset, the belief that there's never enough money, never enough opportunities, never enough success to go around. And here's the crazy part. This mindset actually creates the scarcity it fears. When you hoard opportunities, you stop creating new ones. When you don't help others, they stop helping you. When you don't invest in yourself, you stop growing. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The scarcity mindset creates hoarding behaviors. Mike had 3 years of expenses saved up, but still felt broke. He had skills and knowledge, but wouldn't share them. He had connections, but wouldn't leverage them. It creates competitive rather than collaborative relationships. Instead of building a network, Mike was building walls. Instead of creating win-win situations, he was looking for zero-sum games. It creates risk aversion that prevents growth. Mike turned down 2 job opportunities that would have doubled his income because they felt too risky. Sometimes the riskiest thing you can do is nothing, and it creates chronic stress about resources. Despite having more than enough, Mike was constantly anxious about money, always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Mike's transformation happened when he started practicing what I call abundance actions. He began referring business to colleagues, sharing his knowledge freely, and investing in experiences. And you know what happened? His income doubled within a year. Not because he had more money, but because he started thinking like someone who deserved abundance. Here's a question that might make you uncomfortable. In what area of your life are you operating from scarcity instead of abundance? Is it money, opportunities, relationships, or something else? Let me know. This is a big one for most people. Mindset 5, the all or nothing mentality. Lisa started her diet on Monday. She meal prepped, bought organic everything, and felt like she was finally going to change her life. By Wednesday, she'd eaten 1 cookie at work and declared the entire week ruined. By Friday, she'd eaten an entire pizza because I'll start again on Monday. Sound familiar? This is the all or nothing mentality, and it's probably destroyed more progress than any other mindset on this list. I've been there. I've thrown away months of progress because of one bad day. I've quit entire projects because of one piece of negative feedback. I've sabotaged relationships because of one awkward conversation. The all or nothing mentality creates chronic restart cycles. Lisa had day 1 written in her journal 47 times. She was constantly starting over instead of making progress. It creates extreme mood swings. When you're on, you're invincible. When you're off, you're worthless. There's no middle ground, no room for being human. It creates an inability to maintain progress. Small setbacks become complete failures. One missed workout becomes a month off. One awkward social interaction becomes social isolation. And it creates self-sabotage. When you can't meet impossible standards, you unconsciously sabotage yourself to avoid disappointment. It's easier to fail spectacularly than to succeed imperfectly. Lisa's breakthrough came when she learned to embrace what I call the messy middle. Progress isn't a straight line. It's a squiggly line that generally trends upward. She started celebrating small wins and treating setbacks as data, not disasters. She developed what I call the 80% rule. If she was hitting her goals 80% of the time, she was winning. That one mindset shift changed everything. Here's my question for you. What's one area where you've been stuck in the all or nothing trap? Where could you apply the 80% rule instead? Share it in the comments. I guarantee you're not alone. Mindset 6, the fixed mindset. After David's first business failed, he told everyone who would listen, "I'm just not an entrepreneur type." He went back to his corporate job and stayed there for 15 years. convinced that some people are just born with business skills and others aren't. This is the fixed mindset, the belief that your abilities, intelligence, and talents are fixed traits that can't be developed. You either have it or you don't. And it's complete nonsense. Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck's research shows that people with a fixed mindset avoid challenges because failure feels like proof of their limitations. People with a growth mindset embrace challenges because failure is just feedback. The fixed mindset creates a fear of challenges. David turned down 2 promotion opportunities because he didn't think he was leadership material. He didn't apply for jobs that excited him because he didn't have the right background. It creates giving up easily. When you believe your abilities are fixed, every obstacle feels insurmountable. David gave up on his business at the first sign of difficulty instead of seeing it as a learning opportunity. It creates an inability to learn from feedback. Criticism feels personal when you have a fixed mindset. David took every piece of feedback as an attack on his character instead of information to improve, and it creates limiting beliefs about potential. The most dangerous words in the English language are, "I'm just not a blank person." David wasn't just not an entrepreneur, he wasn't a leader, wasn't creative, wasn't good with people. He'd boxed himself into a tiny corner of possibility. David's transformation happened when he realized something profound. Every expert was once a beginner. Every successful person failed multiple times before they succeeded. The only difference between people who achieve their goals and those who don't isn't talent, it's persistence. He started his second business at 45 and sold it for 7 figures 3 years later. Same person, different mindset. What's one thing you've told yourself you're just not good at? What would you try if you believed you could learn anything? Let me know in the comments. I love hearing about people's growth journeys. Mindset 7. The catastrophic thinking pattern. Rachel's boss sent her a calendar invite titled Quick Chat, and her world ended. Well, not literally, but in her mind, she was already cleaning out her desk. She spent 3 sleepless nights imagining the conversation. She was getting fired. No, she was getting demoted. No, the company was closing. No, she'd done something terrible and was about to be sued. The quick chat turned out to be about planning the office holiday party. This is catastrophic thinking, the tendency to automatically assume the worst possible outcome in any situation. Your brain becomes a disaster movie director, and you're the unwilling star. I used to be the king of catastrophic thinking. Headache, brain tumor, plane turbulence. We're all going to die. Friend doesn't text back immediately. They hate me forever. Catastrophic thinking creates chronic anxiety. Your nervous system is constantly activated, preparing for disasters that rarely happen. Rachel lived in a state of fight or flight over imaginary threats. It creates avoidance behaviors. When you expect the worst, you start avoiding situations that might trigger it. Rachel stopped volunteering for projects because she was afraid of failing. She stopped socializing because she was afraid of being judged. It creates decision paralysis. When every option could lead to disaster, it's safer to choose nothing. Rachel stayed in a job she hated for 5 years because changing felt too risky, and it creates physical health problems. Chronic stress from catastrophic thinking leads to headaches, digestive issues, sleep problems, and a weakened immune system. Your body can't tell the difference between real danger and imagined danger. Rachel's breakthrough came when she learned to challenge her catastrophic thoughts with what I call reality testing. Instead of asking, "What if something terrible happens?" she started asking, "What's the most likely outcome?" and "What evidence do I have that this will happen?" She also learned the 5-5-5 rule. Will this matter in 5 minutes, 5 months, 5 years? Most of our catastrophic thoughts fail this test. Here's a question for you. What's one catastrophic thought that's been playing on repeat in your mind? How would you reality test it? Share it if you're comfortable. Sometimes just saying it out loud breaks its power. The integration. Now, here's where it gets really interesting and really dangerous. These mindsets don't exist in isolation. They work together like a destructive symphony, creating compound problems that can completely derail your life. Let me show you what I mean. Sarah, our perfectionist lawyer, also struggled with comparison and catastrophic thinking. She'd scroll through LinkedIn, see colleagues getting promoted, and immediately catastrophize about her own career being over because she wasn't perfect enough. This created a perfect storm. She'd procrastinate on important projects because they had to be perfect, then compare her delayed progress to others' success, then catastrophize about her future, which made her even more paralyzed. Sound exhausting? It is. I've lived this cycle and it nearly broke me. But here's the good news. Just like these mindsets compound to create destruction, changing one creates a ripple effect that improves others. When Sarah learned to embrace good enough standards, she started finishing projects faster. When she finished more projects, she had more successes to compare to others. When she had more successes, she had less to catastrophize about. One change created a positive domino effect. The solution framework. So, how do you break free from these mental prisons? I've developed what I call the meta method. M. Mindfulness, catching the thoughts in real time. E. Examination, questioning the validity of these thoughts. T. Transformation, replacing them with empowering alternatives. A. Action, taking small steps aligned with new thinking. Let me break this down. Mindfulness is about becoming aware of your thoughts as they happen. Most of us are so identified with our thoughts that we don't realize we're thinking them. Start by setting phone reminders to check in with your thoughts throughout the day. What am I thinking right now? What mood am I in? What story am I telling myself? Examination is about questioning your thoughts like a detective. Is this thought actually true? What evidence do I have? What would I tell a friend having this thought? One of my favorite questions is this thought helpful or harmful? Transformation is about replacing destructive thoughts with empowering ones. Instead of, I always mess up, try, I'm learning and improving. Instead of, I'm not good enough, try, I'm growing and becoming better every day. Action is about taking small steps that align with your new thinking. You can't think your way out of a thinking problem. You have to act your way out. Take one small action that contradicts your old mindset. Here are 3 practical exercises you can start today. First, the daily thought audit. Every evening, write down 3 thoughts that helped you and 3 that hurt you. This builds awareness of your mental patterns. Second, the 5-question reframe. When you catch a destructive thought, ask, is this true? Is this helpful? What would I tell a friend? What's a more empowering way to think about this? What's one small action I can take? Third, the new neural pathway practice. Choose one new empowering thought and repeat it 10 times every morning. Your brain creates what it rehearses. Remember, this isn't about positive thinking or pretending problems don't exist. It's about thinking more accurately and helpfully about your reality. The transformation promise. Let me paint you a picture of what life looks like when you break free from these destructive mindsets. You wake up excited about the day instead of dreading it. You see challenges as opportunities to grow instead of threats to avoid. You celebrate your progress instead of obsessing over your perfection. You take responsibility for your life instead of blaming external circumstances. Your relationships improve because you're not constantly seeking validation or avoiding vulnerability. Your work performance increases because you're focused on progress, not perfection. Your health improves because you're not constantly stressed about imaginary disasters. You start taking risks that align with your values instead of playing it safe. You invest in yourself instead of hoarding resources. You collaborate instead of competing. You create instead of consuming. This isn't about becoming a different person. It's about becoming the person you already are underneath all the mental noise. I won't lie to you. This isn't about overnight transformation. It's about consistent daily practice that compounds over months and years. But here's the thing. You're going to be thinking anyway. You might as well think thoughts that serve you. The people who change their lives aren't the ones with perfect circumstances or superhuman willpower. They're the ones who change their minds first. So here's what I want you to do right now. And I mean right now, not later when you have time. First, choose one mindset from this video that resonated most with you. Don't try to fix all 7. Pick one and commit to it for the next 7 days. Second, I want you to take the 7-day awareness challenge. For the next week, set 3 phone reminders to check in with your thoughts. Just awareness. No judgment. No trying to change anything yet. Just notice. Third, share in the comments which mindset you're working on. Say something like, I'm working on perfectionism, or I'm addressing my comparison trap. Why? Because when you declare something publicly, you're 42% more likely to follow through. Plus, you'll realize you're not alone in this struggle. If you found this video helpful, do me a favor and hit that like button. It helps more people find this content, and let's be honest, more people need to hear this message. Remember, your mind is the most powerful tool you have. It can be your greatest asset or your biggest liability. The choice is yours. The question isn't whether you can change. Neuroscience proves you can. The question is whether you will. Your future self is counting on the decision you make right now. Which mindset are you going to work on first? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one, and I can't wait to hear about your transformation journey. Until next time, remember, you have more power than you think, and you're capable of more than you know.